Sounds good.
Oh, sure. All right, everybody. This is Financial Life, but this is the Winchester Wednesday segment. This is the second one because I'm trying to feature the city of Winchester that has been so good to me. I'm going to get back to everybody here. So today I have a special guest on. But before I do that, I'm going to do my shameless plug. As you know, some of you may know, some of you may not know, I help people with financial literacy. That can include credit, also some life coaching. So if you would like to set up a call, it's free. Go to speakwithmatt.info. Again, speakwithmatt.info. And then this episode is also sponsored by Born to Risk, one of the co-authors of the book. If you like a copy, reach out to me. With that being said, this is episode 2 of the Winchester Wednesday series. And today I have Amanda Whitson, who's a realtor in the local area. And thank you for being on. I'd like to know more about you, and we're gonna have a discussion about real estate again. Not again, but like just again to help people understand because it is a different market than we had just 4 years ago, and even before then.
It's a different market than we had 2 weeks ago, just based on some of the things that have happened in real estate recently.
Really?
But yeah,
Oh wow, it
yeah,
changed.
there was a lot of people have probably heard there was a big lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors
Yeah,
and some other local real estate firms and things. Not so much locally here, but it kind of threw up a bunch of flags about how the real estate business is done. So a lot of the settlement regulations went into effect in the last 2 weeks. So the way we're doing, not so much the way a lot of us in Virginia are doing business, but as real estate as a whole, the way it's being done
right.
throughout the country has changed a little bit.
So just there's probably a lot of people that may not know what that was. So explain what was life before that whole settlement judgment order and what life will be like now. Well,
So
going
it
forward
was a
that they
lot
change.
of
Yeah.
it was a lot of more consumer education than anything else. So the lawsuit dealt with how real estate agents are compensated.
Mhm.
And what seemed to get lost is so in kind of the way the world has worked up until now, if you were selling your house, you sort of just assumed that you were going to offer a commission and that a percentage of that commission was going to go to compensate the realtor who was representing the purchaser of the home that you were selling.
Right.
Um, that fee has always been negotiable. All real estate compensation has always been negotiable. But what kind of happened was some sellers started feeling like they weren't given the option and it wasn't explained to them that this was negotiable. So basically what has changed for us here in Virginia, we've always had what's called buyer's agency.
Mm,
So if I were going to help you buy a house, um, we would sit down, we would talk about what your goals were, we would talk about what lender you were working with or how you were going to finance the purchase of the property. And we'd also go through a document that explained to you what my job as the realtor representing you is and kind of how that relationship works. And part of what's in that agreement is that when you go to buy a house, you are going to pay me X. Again, even on the buyer side, that's always negotiable. It
right.
also says in there that if the seller is going to offer compensation, that would be reduced from the amount that you're signing this paper that says you're going to pay me.
Right.
So really, it's just the settlement of this lawsuit for us in Virginia and in West Virginia has really just emphasized we need to be having those conversations and explaining this to our clients. And there will be situations now because we used to have the multiple listing system
Mhm.
where everybody's properties are marketed. Used to display what the compensation was for an agent bringing a buyer on the property. That, as a result of this lawsuit, has been removed. So now we're having to talk with each other, and that compensation offering
Mhm.
um, is being negotiated more in real time, and when you write an offer on a property.
Interesting. Why did they? Whatever. I mean, they removed the I mean, if so, why would they remove it off the website, the MLS, if you have to?
So I think the premise was that if it's offered in the MLS, it's basically saying it's a price fixing. So like it's taking the idea that it's negotiable out of at
Okay.
least the perception.
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you
So
what.
it's we've gotten a couple more forms that we have to fill out, more paperwork that we have to do. But I think to your earlier point, yeah, the market is also epically different than it was a couple years ago as well.
We'll get into that. It's been a crazy ride. Because see, when I first heard about this, I'm like, what's the big deal? And I'm like, well, I don't know how I came to this conclusion, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna hire a realtor, obviously I'm paying you through like the loan or something. Like to me, it's like, duh.
There's lots of ways to figure that out. And like I said, just sort of the what was the norm was the fact that that seller was going to offer compensation. I think we'll find that that's still going to be the norm. Just the process of getting there is going to be a little bit different. The conversations that we're having with our clients is going to be different. And there may be some instances where a buyer falls in love with the property and the seller of the property is like, I'm not paying the buyer's agent. So then the buyer is going to have
Right.
to um is going to have to pay. And yes, maybe it can be wrapped into the loan. We've already seen some of the loan programs that previously didn't allow for um different movement of money, that they're kind of opening up their criteria a little bit. So we'll figure it all out. It's just going to take time, and
Yeah.
it's nothing new to the real estate industry. It's always changing. When I first started, I worked in a real estate office. I ran the operations and ran the office for an office 17 years ago, and our contract was like, I don't know, like 10 pages once you had everything done.
Jeez.
And like now it's like 30 once you have all the extra pieces and parts that we now have to add to stuff.
I'm sure everyone's reading every single page, asking questions, thoroughly understanding it. They're like, nope, I'll sign them. I don't care. You're like, ah.
Well, you know what? Like that's my job is to make sure that you understand it and that you know what you're getting into. And a lot of the documents that we use are state issued or state Virginia Association of Realtors forms.
Right.
So a lot of it's like fill in the blank. So the legal jargon is all there for you because I'm not an attorney. I can't legally write a contract, but I
Right.
can take what attorneys have put together, and walk you through that process and guide you through that process.
Gotcha.
And really, I feel like that's one of the biggest values to working with a realtor, especially working with a local realtor,
Yeah.
is yes, I know those forms, I know the process. I probably also know the person that you're going to work with on getting your mortgage, and I probably also know the attorney that's going to handle the settlement and that's doing your title search. Um, I know the home inspectors and the pest inspectors, and so my favorite part of my job is for someone who's in the process of buying a home or renting a home or selling a home, or just someone who I've worked with in the past, or you and I have passed, information back and forth. It's really being an overall resource to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of like what came up at Hobnob when I was talking to someone and they're like, I need to get my credit fixed before I can do some of this stuff with real estate that I have. And I'm like, I know a guy.
Right. I know someone.
So I mean
I know a
that
realtor.
I love the fact that I'm able to bring people into our community and introduce them to people who I know are great people that are great at their jobs,
Yeah.
be it during their buying process or when they've been in their home for 2 years and their HVAC goes out. And I like them knowing that they can call me and I can say, reach out to this person, they'll get
Yeah.
you set up.
Your connector, because you gave me a connection to Patricia, who's hosting veteran at
Yes.
the Shenandoah University, which I need to reach out to her and say, hey, what's going on? But that's good to know that like you're like
Well, and your first veteran on your veterans podcast was
yeah,
Adam
Adam.
Huffam,
And I
who's one
I
of one of my clients.
oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. Yes, that was a good episode. That's up. Please look at that. I forget what episode that is. I think it's episode 17 or 18. I've lost count at this point.
Yeah, his
I've done a
organization
lot.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah, his overseas is awesome, and he's very passionate. We had a great episode, great conversation about being vets and just jokes we talk about and things like that. So, how did you get into real estate? Or a better question is
How did I?
why? Why real estate? Why not like I don't know, becoming a becoming an attorney or I don't know, something crazy.
So I got into it, actually. I started out in hospitality, and so I was managing a restaurant in Clark County, as well as running a coffee shop right in Main Street. And I had this guy that came in every at the coffee shop every single day, like clockwork, same order. And I had hired this woman who was in her probably 40s. Like, working the counter at a coffee shop should have been relatively easy for her. And every single day I was teaching her how to use the cash register over again. And so this regular customer pulled me aside one day and told me he was opening a real estate office, and that he had watched me with this woman over and over again, and that he thought I had the patience to work with realtors.
Ah.
So he hired me as his office manager, and we opened three offices over the course of about 13 years. And then I was kind of burning out on it. I took classes to get my real estate license, and luckily, in 13 years working behind the scenes in real estate, that process was pretty easy for me.
Right.
Um, and I got my real estate license. I ran a property management firm locally for 3 years, and got a burnout on that. Realized that wasn't exactly my jam, and my sister-in-law and I decided that we were going to start a real estate team. So we joined Realty One Group Old Town 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And why? So I mean, from the very beginning of it, it was because I was 20 years old and I needed a job.
I
I
needed
didn't
something
know
to do. I
anything.
was 20 and stupid.
Yeah,
Give
I
me
didn't I
something.
didn't know anything about real estate.
Yeah.
So I had I liked the idea of just learning new things, and I liked the idea of being in an office and not in a restaurant until midnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then actually getting into real estate sales, it was really because, like, I of all the stuff that I just said, like, I really wanted the opportunity to help people. I feel like so much else in life kind of falls together after you have home, or you find a place to call home.
Yeah.
And I grew up here. I've lived in the Shenandoah Valley my entire life, so I feel like I know a lot about it, and I know a lot of people. And real estate allows me to bring all those people together, and also help people new to this area find a place to call home.
I like it. All right, pocket's over. Click. Just kidding. We're done. So you need to know about her. It's all good. Um, cool. That's good to know. So to kind of switch gears a little bit. So you've been doing real estate for 13 years.
17 at this
I'm
point.
sorry, 17. When I think
13 with one company.
okay, 13. Whatever. I was still right. I'm still right.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm right.
You're right.
17. Yeah, thank you. 17 years in total. What have you? What's the question? I don't want to say how much has the market changed. No, here's what it was. What have you seen over the years from when you started till now that people should understand and just know? It's A lot. You've seen.
What have I seen that people should? I mean, so I haven't seen nearly as much as some of the people that have been in the industry longer than I have, but I
Yeah.
did open a real estate office right as the market was crashing, and we
Oh,
had all of those foreclosures and everything was going haywire. And then obviously was in it through COVID, which just completely changed the market in this area.
yeah.
Um, Today, really, the thing that I would say, especially to people locally in our area, is like don't buy into all of the media hype, especially national media, as to what's going on.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of people quote national statistics back to me about what's happening in real estate, but we happen to be in the Winchester City, Frederick County area, the fastest growing real estate market in the state.
Wow.
So like it's our prices are still going up, meaning properties are increasing in values.
Yes.
But we're all hoping and expecting to see rates drop here in the next couple months. They've already gone down a tiny bit.
Right.
So and the reality of it is okay, everybody has goes on about interest rates. Interest rates are still kind of at a historically low. Yes, they're not COVID interest rates.
No, they're not COVID low. They're not
You're
like
not going to
3%,
get a
1%.
you're not going to get a 2% interest rate. But like when my parents bought their first house, their interest rate was like 12 or 13%.
Yeah, that was the
So
norm
we're
years ago.
right, exactly. So, 5, 6, 7%, it's really not that bad historically speaking.
Right.
Um, and there's really no better way to build wealth than in real estate. There's only so much land. It's a finite thing. So, and especially in our area with the way that it's growing, I think I don't see a world in which your real estate doesn't appreciate in value.
I agree. It's I mean, it drops, market crashes happen, but people still need a place to go, whether it's
Right.
owning rent.
Everyone is always going to need a place to live.
Yes.
So what I would love to see in this area is us as a community, us find some solutions with some of these people that just can't afford a place to live right now because of what's happened. But I work with a couple organizations that are pretty passionate about that. I'm part of the Housing Coalition of the Northern Shenandoah Valley.
Mhm.
So we do a big housing summit every year. And in between that, we also do little seminars that are addressing affordable housing issues, the cost of building affordable housing. We're about to launch a big program where we've got a team that's going to dig into the grants and the government financial sources that are out there that may help bringing some of this very much needed development to Winchester and Frederick County.
Okay. Affordable housing. That's a buzzword that I swear gets thrown up
It
every.
is.
It's an election year. Affordable housing. I'm like, yeah, but like, what's the truth behind that? Like, what does it really take to make it happen versus just shouting and everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, what's the reality to make it work? To actually be like, hey, this is how we make it work.
I don't know what the answer to that is.
Mhm.
Like I said, we've got a great group of people that's trying really hard to figure that out. Because the reality of it is building housing is expensive. Um, so when you have some of the developers that have really great projects going on right now, they're they also need to make a living. So a lot of times the math doesn't math.
It doesn't matter. Like, this isn't working for us. What are you talking
Right.
about?
Well, it's not even that it doesn't work for them. It's like it just doesn't work. The numbers don't add up to where you can afford to build some of
Yeah.
the housing that's really needed here.
Right.
And I mean, if you look at a large number of our teachers, our first responders, the people that are working in our hospitals and taking care of us when we're sick, most of those people can't afford to live in Winchester, Frederick County. I would say of the ones that I help find housing, probably 80 to 90% of them end up in either Berkeley County, Jefferson County, somewhere in that area
Oh wow.
because they've kind of been priced out of this market. Or, I mean, for example, the same townhouse here versus Inwood is easily 50 to $100,000 difference in price.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's West Virginia.
Well, and
Cheaper.
here's, but so it's, kind of classic economic supply and demand.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
If there are people that are willing to pay it, then that is just going to continue. So
Right.
I think it would be really nice to come up with a solution to help the people that work here be able to live here, but I don't have an answer for it yet.
I see. Yeah, it seems like it sounds good. All sounds good, but what's the real like issue that
Yeah.
issue? But how do we make it work with the math? Because like I said, economics, supply and demand, and it's not like you can just take something, get something for free because it's not how it works. They're gonna pay for it in some other fashion, and it's
And
lacking.
exactly. And so many of one of the things that I see all the time people on like Facebook groups and stuff talk about is these buildings, much like Ward's Plaza. Like, why
Yeah,
aren't they doing anything with this? Why did it sit there for so long? I don't think anybody understands the level of work that goes on in the background to get to the point that you can develop something like that, or to like even just tearing Ward's Plaza down, and the planning that has gone into that, and the process, and who has this lease, who has that lease,
yeah,
where are these businesses going to go. There's so much more involved in it than I think the average person understands. To where, like, I feel for the people that are in office that are constantly being told they're not doing their job, because there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try to address these issues.
yeah. No, you're right on that because like people don't understand that with the War Plaza, it's a process, not something that's done within like a month or a couple months, 6 months, whatever. It's the who owns what, the lease, like you said, the planning behind it, um, plumbing, all that stuff. Because my business
Mhm.
partner he was working on a project or something that like it let me know that when you see these big stadiums and big buildings and things, and you think it just came about, no, that was like a 4 or 5 year project, and then it gets
Mhm.
built, and you have no idea like
Mhm.
that takes time. That's why these concepts and things and build it and funding and who we're gonna hire and it's not like let's just put a bunch of buildings there. Like the math has to work,
Right,
sure,
right. Yeah, and
all that.
the cost of renovating an existing space, especially an older space, or the cost of tearing it down and building new, like all of that is a factor. I think the other thing I would recommend to anybody that's like curious about how the process behind all this, go to a planning commission meeting, or a zoning meeting, and just listen to the detail and everything that goes into those conversations and the steps that have to happen to be able to do something.
Right.
I'm kind of a nerd in that way. Like, I literally, that's my background when I was in my
Ah,
office a lot
you're
of
nerdy and
times,
nerdy.
is
It's like it's
watching.
gonna go like this. I'm going like this. I'm gonna go here and up
Yeah.
here. It's like
But
okay,
I feel like I do feel like being staying in tune with those things and knowing what's going on in our community is part of my job. So, like, I listen to the planning commission meetings and the zoning meetings, because I want to be informed so that my consumer is informed of what's going on. I don't want you to buy a house and then find out that, I don't know, they're putting an industrial plant down the street, and
yeah,
it was already approved and you didn't know it. And so, yeah, I want to know enough to guide you and direct you to find the information that might be important to you in buying or selling a home.
Now it makes you want to go to those local zoning meetings, which I've seen throughout my life. I'm like, what is this? Whatever. Now I need to go and go, there's a lot more in this. And then hopefully I won't leave bored because of all the details and numbers. But now I'm
I
now
mean,
I'm gonna be like, I don't know,
they
I
do,
guess.
they get wordy, but it's also just really interesting. And again, I think for the people that are just like, I don't understand why we're not just doing this and this will solve all the problems. Like, go
It's
sit
not
in on
how
one
it
of those
works.
and you'll understand why it takes so long.
Yeah, it's like it's not how it works. It's a process. Like I don't know. In America, just us. I think it's just us. We have this screwed up view on life that, oh, I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. It's like that's not how anything actually works. It's like the only time we're like, okay, I'll give it time is when one, and you can let me know this, you're raising kids, I work with kids. That's not something that you can just snap your fingers. And then growing a like having a garden and growing plants. It's like it seems like those people go, okay, yeah, it takes time. Everything else, no, I want it now. What's taking so long? Ordered my pizza 30 seconds ago. Why is it not being delivered right now? It's like there's
Right.
natural law to things. Whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just here on this planet, understanding that some things are quicker than others. Some things take time, and you just got to be patient with the process.
Yeah.
That would make sense to what? Oh, okay, that makes sense to. I'm going on a little bit of a digressing, but that makes sense why. And now it's being paid over where Costco is. That overpass that was on paper so long. That makes sense now why they took.
That was on paper for so long. There's a lot of the Stevens City and Middletown area that has all of these new housing developments going up that a lot of people are very upset about. Same thing. Those spaces were approved for those communities, I think in like the 90s. Like it
The
wasn't it's
90s.
I think it was like 98. I'm not gonna take that one. Don't take that one to the bank. But
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Jeez.
it's been a very long time since those particular spaces were approved for communities
Right.
and for
Well,
housing.
then I'm sure COVID slowed that down because that happened. No one could go anywhere. So that probably,
Well, I mean, if it was in the 90s, I mean, the crash, the 2008,
yeah.
2009 situation
Oh,
slowed
yeah.
that down. You saw a lot of builders who kind of just either went bankrupt or had to halt projects. And then I think really COVID and the massive amount of people that came to this area really kind of rekindled it where builders were like, oh, people want to move here. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people want to move here.
You want to work in DC and live here and it's cheaper. I don't know how you
It's
do that.
cheaper. And I mean, can you imagine for those like weeks where like everything was completely locked down, being in like a one bedroom apartment in the city,
Oof.
no green space, no like nowhere to go. Like it makes sense to me that people, especially people that could work remotely, are like, I'm not staying here.
Now, I'm not saying I'm gonna go elsewhere and work remotely there and show up once a week or whatnot. Who cares?
Right. And have a yard and a garden and a house that's four times the size of my apartment. And
Yeah, and at least go
well,
to the farmers markets, the cideries, and all the good local stuff that's here. And
yeah, which it's amazing growing up here. And I think a lot of people that have spent are you you're not from here originally, you said
no,
you're from Gainesville.
I'm what they call a transplant. I'm from Maryland.
Yeah.
I came here from
Yeah.
Maryland.
S- So I think a lot of us that grew up in this area, when I was a teenager, it was always like, there's nothing to do here. It's so boring, whatever. The Winchester Frederick County area has so much to offer now.
Yeah,
Um, like any given weekend, there's live music, there's probably some sort of festival, there's something going on at the farmers markets. Um, there's yoga and the MSV gardens and the walking
yeah.
trails there. There's hiking, there's kayaking. It's we've just looking at it now as an older person, I don't know how anybody would be bored here.
Right.
Um,
I've talked to people that grew up here and like, man, this place was just nothing. And I'm like, I can see that because I come from Gaithersburg, Montgomery County, where I had a bunch of stuff, and that's changing drastically. And I'm like,
mhm.
I give you credit for being here because if I grew up here, I'd be like, I'm never coming back. I'll come back on holidays and that's it. Peace. And never coming back ever again.
I'll tell you, having siblings with children is probably one of the biggest reasons that I'm still here. Like
Yeah.
watching all the little people grow up
Yep.
is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
not being so like I told you, I was running a little bit late today because I went and picked one of my nieces up from kindergarten and then picked up her little sister from the babysitter. So like having the opportunity to do those things, I wouldn't get to do that if I didn't live here.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's not a whole lot. I'm on the bandwagon with everybody. I like a better grocery store here. I happen to have heard through the grapevine that that might be happening, but
Yeah, I've
um,
heard the same thing. I'm just like, I'll believe
it's
when I
not
see the sign.
public knowledge though.
Oh yeah, it's not public knowledge yet, but it will be public when it happens. I believe it when I see the sign that says future location of said
Hmm.
public store. At least finally
Yeah,
for once, like I've missed out on this. Wawa's is being I think there being two Wawa locations here. Like finally, because it
there's one in the Stevenson side of town, and
yeah.
then one I think the other one's in Middletown. Middletown's getting both a Sheets and a Wawa, which that is
Oh,
crazy to me.
that's gonna be competitive as hell. I will say this. Growing up, when I went to University of Maryland College Park, there's a Wawa there. There's a Wawa in Frederick, Maryland. They also have Sheets, so I knew about both. Coming here, I'm like, oh, the Sheets. I would have Wawa, and I'm like, I may start something. Wawa is better food than Sheets. I'm just gonna.
Really?
If you've
Okay.
never had it, it's better. Sheets is good.
Okay.
Wawa's got it better down. I'm like, oh, I'm like finally
Well,
getting one.
I prefer to get my sandwiches off of a truck. So
As you should, and I have to yet experience that from, what your husband does. So I need to do that as well.
yeah,
All that stuff. So I was gonna ask something, I forget what it was. No, but yeah, so it's changed a lot. That's what we're talking about. Changed a lot from when you grew up and then I come on. Oh, I came here and I'm like, great. There's all the Costco. And I was like, ooh, it's farmers markets, which I didn't have, and I appreciate those, all the stuff. I love West Oaks is like
oh
my
yeah.
fave. My business partner will always talk about, I need to come down, let's go to West Oaks. I got him hooked on it. That's my go-to. I'm not far from Marker Miller's, and there's another one on, I think it's 522. I can't think of the name. There's that one.
There's a ton of there's actually the tourism board actually has a passport right now
Really,
where it has all of them that are open 7 days a week. It does not have a lot of the other ones, which there is a ton of like super cool little micro farms that
really.
have little shops. Garrity's micro farm is one of them. They raise these kuni pigs and it's the coolest place.
Huh.
Um, and I think it's Wild Feather is another one. I think that's over by like Airport Road. See, aside from the really big operations like West Oaks and
Yeah.
Richards, there's also a lot of small local farmers that are raising animals in a sustainable manner.
Okay.
They're growing fresh organic produce, eggs,
Wow.
and Garrity specifically has done a really good job of working with other small business owners. And so their little shop has like flowers from a local grower and soaps and candles and all sorts of stuff. So um, those are a really great way to support our local small businesses.
I didn't know there was that many smaller farmer markets. I want to say farm.
There's a ton of them. There's think it's in October this year. There's a homesteaders farm crawl coming up in a couple weeks, couple months, something like that. Yeah.
Arm crawl, not a bar crawl.
Farm crawl.
Oh,
Yes.
someone's gonna get lit for that.
Me and a girlfriend did it the first year, and it's like you find places that, and I am generally astonished when I find something in this area that I didn't already know existed because I've been here forever. And the farm crawl, I discovered like so many little hidden gems that I did not know existed until then.
Arm crawl. Didn't know that was a thing until today. No, bar crawl. Those are always fun.
So yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Um, but less beers and
More
more
cheers.
chicken eggs.
More chicken and egg. Hey, that's fine. It's less beers, but if you can get quality food, that's not gonna
Yeah,
kill you as you consume it because you need to eat. I'm all for that, you know. Um,
yeah.
so it's a good area to have that with, especially so. Um, have you
So the
always?
other thing you didn't, oh, go ahead. No, go
Oh
ahead.
no, no, you're good. What were you say?
Oh, so I was going to say the other thing we didn't like, we touched on like the farmers markets, the breweries, the wineries. I was having a conversation with some friends not too long ago. Is the food scene here has also really stepped its game up since like when I was a kid. So I think there's some of the ethnic stuff that I would love to see that's not here. But the number of small local restaurants and small local food purveyors
Yeah,
that exist in the area now where it's like you're not getting, I won't call out any specific chain, but like
major
a
chain.
chain that's opening a bag and reheating something that came from their corporate office. Like there's lots of restaurants that are making their food from scratch and making a really high quality product.
I think is it pronounced Manolades or Manolites? That's local to here. I don't think that's a
It
chain.
is. They should be opening. Or no, they did their soft opening. I saw some pictures yesterday. Somebody was at their soft opening
Oh, wow.
downtown.
I'll have to get them on the
So
podcast as
Taqueria
well.
Guadalajara, that's another one.
Yeah, that one.
Best tacos.
Winchester Cider Works opened a second location in downtown Winchester. I went
That's
there.
only location now. They actually shut down their tasting room on 522.
Oh, okay, it's the only one. Okay, well, I'm glad it's
Hmm.
closer. It was really cool. We went there and we
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So I got to talk to the owner there, have him on as well because I didn't know he was English.
Steve and my husband yeah, Steve and my husband have been friends for a really long time.
Wow, because I saw the
He's a
guy.
fun guy.
My girlfriend and I were sitting there, and he came up to us, and I'm like, "This guy's an accent." He goes, "Yeah, yeah." He came up, said hi. He goes, "I'm from Maryland, where people don't talk to each other and whatever." So I was like, I'm used to it here ish to the degree." And I'm like, "Who's this guy?" And then the server was like, "Yeah, that's the owner." I'm like, "That's the owner." Just regular clothes. You had no idea tattoos showing. I'm like, "He's not from here," but like it was. I gotta talk to him more and find out like what is his story and how did you get to
He's got a really fun story for sure.
Okay.
For
I gotta
sure.
go down there. I guess go down this week and go, hey, want some cider? Got a podcast, you want to be on it? I'll be like, yeah, I know Bill, I know Amanda, because they think I'm awesome. They know I'm awesome.
Yeah, no, tell him that for
I
sure.
will.
Tell him that.
I'll do that. I was gonna ask, do you have you only sold real estate in this area or has it been other parts of the United States?
So I'm licensed in Virginia and West Virginia. And I because of the time that I spent in property management, I have a fair number of clients that are investors.
Okay.
So I'll go like I sold two condos in Snowshoe last year because actually Adam Packham was one of them. He bought an investment property up there. So if you ever want to go skiing in the winter, hit Adam up. He's got a spot up there. It's
Um,
awesome. It's slope facing and it's gorgeous.
there
Um, it's on Airbnb and VRBO.
we go.
And then I've done some stuff in the Northern Virginia area as well. And I've got a couple people that are looking out towards Wardensville area for investments and that sort of stuff. But I try to stay within 2 hours of Winchester for the most
Mhm.
part.
Okay. Cool.
Mainly because I can't unless the reason I did the couple of properties in Snowshoe because like we had season tickets, we have or season passes up there. We have a friend that owns a condo up there, so I've spent a lot of time up there. I know most of the restaurant owners. I know, what's around in the area. And it's kind of important to me in order to be able to to support my clients to be familiar with the area that I'm working in. So
That makes sense. You don't want to go to an area that you're not familiar with and say, "Hey, this is a
I'm not I'm
home."
not gonna do I'm not gonna do the best job for them if I'm going somewhere that I'm not familiar with.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I was gonna say we were talking about the mountains earlier. Have you sold anything up in the mountains before? Like where Front Royal is and going farther down that way?
Front Royal, Edinburgh,
I think I know where that is.
um,
I think.
past like Strasburg and
Oh,
Woodstock.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
Woodstock. Yeah, yep. Down that way.
yeah. Yeah. So my dad has a farm in Tomsbrook in Shenandoah County. So I spent a lot of time there growing up too. I actually went to Strasburg High School. So
Gotcha.
Shenandoah County area, lots of remote area, lots of farms and that sort of stuff. And then I've gone as far out as like right on the Maryland edge. So when I did property management, we had some complexes in Cumberland, Maryland. So
Yep.
I've been over in that way, over that area a little bit.
Cumberland, Maryland. I've been
But
there.
Ma-
I've been there.
Maryland real estate is so different than it is here. So
I can imagine. I mean, I've looked at like homes at one point in Maryland and homes in like Texas, for example, and I was like, Maryland's like, and the prices are high,
well,
and
they're like
Texas is
every
like
little
why?
pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah, every little pocket of Maryland has like their own little rules and regulations and stuff. And quite a few girls in my office that are licensed in Maryland, and I'm just like, I don't think I need to get into that one.
you never know. It could change your life. More business out of Maryland. I have no idea.
You never
I don't
know.
know.
Yeah,
But you found it sounds like you have your pocket and your whole base here that like you're good. But if you need to,
yeah,
there. But right now, nah. So
yeah. This is what I know. I do, as I mentioned before, just from the price points, I do work in Berkeley County and Jefferson County a
yeah,
lot.
that's right. That's right. You said
Um,
good old stuff. Cool.
but
So, ma'am, I appreciate you for being on today. It's been a good episode of the second episode, or
yeah,
second
thanks for
segment of
having me
the
on.
second segment. I said second episode, second segment of whatever Winchester Wednesdays. Other than that, is there anything else you want to share? And how can people get a hold of you?
How do people get a hold of me? Okay. So Amanda Whitson, I'm a realtor licensed in Virginia and West Virginia with the Realty One Group, Old Town. And my team is the Bluebird Group Real Estate Team.
Yeah.
You can reach me at 540-247-5405 or Amanda at list, your nest.com.
Listyournest.com by Amanda. I don't know why.
Or, or I'm on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Cool, man. I thank you for being on. Thanks for being a great guest. I
Awesome.
you sharing everything else, and it's been good. You know a lot, and I didn't know you'd been here for basically you've
A
been
long time.
raised yeah, a long time. You're born and raised, so you know way more about this place
I'm
than
not gonna I'm not gonna tell you how long because then that'll say how tell you how old I am, but a long time.
or just say long enough. Just say long enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
long enough.
there you
Long
go.
enough.
Cool.
All
Thanks for
right,
being
Matt.
on.
Thanks for having me on. Have a
Welcome.
good night. Bye.